babes, I'm Miss Mila Rose and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am picking up with my Storytime series from last episode that got really depressing. I promise you from here on out, at least for the foreseeable future, there are going to be no disclaimers needed for my Storytime series. Things do pick up from here and my life starts to improve in small ways. So these story times moving forward should not be triggering and should not be challenging to sit down and watch with me. If you've made it this far on my Storytime series, thank you so much. You are a trooper, truly. And I really hope you enjoy the continuation of my story times. And I'm also very excited to eventually start sharing more and more of my adult perspective and not just speaking from my childhood self. My story times thus far have been predominantly from my childhood self perspective. So I am going to recap a little bit of the last episode, not going into too many details, but just a little brief recap so you know where we left off. The last episode ended with the police arriving after an episode that happened in the home. I talked one of the police officers into letting me make a phone call to my friend Marie because my friend Marie had told me that her family wanted to potentially take me in for that coming summer. The police officer took me to my friend Marie's. I took a really long hot shower because I was out in the snow without shoes or socks or any footwear. And meanwhile, Marie's mother was having a conversation with the police officer who had dropped me off and who had been at the scene. After I'd finished taking a shower and I got changed into some of my friend Marie's clothes, I went out and we had a conversation with the parents, and Marie's mother seemed very cheerful and happy and told me the situation. I was given a room in their basement to stay in, and I think I had like kind of no contact with my mother based on like the police officer's orders. My mother wasn't to show up at Marie's house to see me, and my mother also wasn't to show up at the school to see me either. I'm pretty sure my mother was made aware of this. I know my school was, and of course Marie's family was made aware of this too. So getting back to school, things were a little awkward trying to get used to this new, everything was just different. And I cried a lot. I literally would bring in like full rolls of toilet paper into the room I was staying in, and I would just bawl my eyes out and just use so much tissue. I do remember that my mother sent like bags and suitcases of my stuff to Marie's. She, I guess, knew I was staying there somehow. I'm not sure. So I was able to get like my textbooks and things I needed for school and things like that. I don't remember how fast I was able to acquire these things. I feel like I must have gone to school without my essentials the first day back. I don't remember. Honestly, it's possible this even happened on a weekend and bags were sent before Monday. I really don't completely remember the details of that whole situation, other than like the traumatic event that had took place and me arriving at my friend Marie's and like my advocating for myself to get there. But the whole friend group knew I was living with Marie, and Marie and I, we looked at this as a pleasant opportunity to get closer to each other, spend more time with each other. I mean, this is something that we both were kind of excited about despite like the traumatic stuff that had taken place for me. We went out on a lot of walks together. We went out a lot together. I remember it was a little hard for me adjusting specifically to this new way of life because I didn't have computer access. I mean, my friend Marie, she had a computer she would let me use sometimes. I actually got in trouble. I was so used to unlimited data. I didn't even know that like plans existed that you didn't have unlimited data, and I feel so bad even to this day. One of the like most guilty things that I feel like really bad about is when other people spend money on me, and I don't want to be a burden on people financially. So I had downloaded, I think, MapleStory to play on the computer, and I was watching some anime from time to time, and my friend had to have a talking with me that I'd used up a lot of data, and I had no idea that was even a thing, so I felt really bad. I stopped using their computer after that for like internet things, I think. So during this time, I was really focused on schoolwork because there really wasn't anything else for me to do. I mean, things that I did enjoy doing at home included playing on the Wii system in the basement, the computer, watching anime, drawing. I didn't have any resources to do these things that I used to enjoy doing. Studying Japanese was one of them. I didn't have my files from back home, so I didn't have any ability to do any of these hobbies that I had enjoyed at home. And also, believe it or not, like even though I did go out a lot with my friends, I was quite a homebody, especially in the summers. Like I'd rather be binge watching anime, binge playing video games, binge drawing when I had like a lot of time off school than going out every single day. Like I liked going out and I loved seeing my friends. Specifically during the school season, I wanted to be out with my friends after school, but specifically during like breaks, I wanted to just like binge on anime, video games, and drawing and all these hobbies that I enjoyed while I was at home, despite all the chaos. So for that, like one reason alone, like my life shifted quite substantially. I didn't have any hobbies I really enjoyed. I was just focused on my school, my grades, my homework, studies, etc., which is a good thing. Honestly, like I'm glad that I was focused on this. I remember I did have like a device, and I don't even remember what it was called, like an iPod or something. I don't know. It was kind of like an iPod, but it had like a radio built in. I had earbuds, and it can connect to the radio. So I would listen to the radio and top 40s music and the KISS station in Toronto when I was walking to and from school. I really enjoyed the conversations between, I can't remember the two guys' names, like Mocha and like someone. Like these two guys were like really funny in the morning. Like I loved listening to them. It was a great conversation in between like great top 40s music. KISS 92.5 brings back memories. I remember the weather around this time was really icy. There was a lot of ice. It was always so slippery, like trying to commute to school and back. I went out in the Humber a lot on walks, and I tried to go on runs, but it was just so icy and slippery that predominantly I was just walking. It was my way of trying to decompress and really figure out like what had happened, why it happened. Like all these questions were going through my head, and I just needed to get outside and like move around and like process everything that had happened so far and where I was at and all that. I mean, a lot of like internal like feelings too of like, was it me? Was it my fault? Am I the bad person? What did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this? Why can't I have a loving family? Why can't I have parents who love me and care about me? I remember specifically anytime I would see parents with their children, especially like when they were like showing any affection towards the child, like holding the child's hand or anything like that. I remember it was so triggering for me to see. Like I had to like try my best not to like just start sobbing there and then until I like got out of like say the grocery store or whatever, so I could then like not have everyone around me seeing me just like breaking down in the middle of a public place like randomly. My guidance counselor, I'm gonna call her Miss or Mrs. B. I don't remember if she was married or not. I'm gonna call her Mrs. B. She was amazing, but I thought she was really annoying at first. Honestly, I thought most adults that were trying to get in my life were just annoying and a nuisance, and I just like had so many encounters of adults just siding with my mother on things, and that like I was like the problem child. So I always like looked at these adult figures as like, you're just in my way and you're not here to help me, like you're not an ally, you're just annoying. So she would call me out of class once every single day, And I found it so annoying because I was missing class time because of it. And I remember it started out as like, she told me the whole situation of the no contact with my mother and how she wasn't allowed to come to the school. That's how I found that out. And she asked me how things were living with my friend Marie and everything that was going on with me. She was just asking questions. She was like the guidance counselor that handles like situations like this, I guess, for students. And she had like heart-to-hearts with a lot of students and hard conversations. Honestly, yes, at this time in my life, like specifically like right like when it started happening, like I was really annoyed with her and how often she would call me out of class. And I don't know if she eventually like picked up on it, but eventually she did ask me like, when's the best place, what's the best time to call you out of class, because she was calling me literally like every single day out of class. And I did have a like a video camera class. I don't even remember what it was called, like video production or something like that class that I was taking. And honestly, it was a snooze fest. There was like hardly ever any work to be done. And most of the class, me and my friend Amy, who I didn't talk much about my friend's situation. I will get into that. It's a bit of a mess. Let's just say that my friend Amy was now going to this school starting of either this semester or the start of the year. I think it was the start of the year. Amy, my childhood best friend, we were taking this class together. Crazy Haley was also in this class with me, and we were like a group. And we had like one guy in our group, and we did projects together for assignments and stuff. But me and Amy would do a lot of anime watching and stuff on the computer. Like there was hardly ever any work, and when there was work, like it was finished really fast and easy. So I told Mrs. B that that was the best time and place to pull me out of class, and every single time she did, I was always so annoyed. But she was honestly like, if there's one person in my life that I would want to send like a thank you letter to that never got the appreciation that they deserved, like that, she's number one on my list. Like Mrs. B would be number one on my list of sending like a huge appreciation, gratitude, thank you letter for everything she did for me. Because what she did was she was asking me, I think she might have tried behind the scenes to try to get some identification and stuff for me from my mother, and to no surprise, my mother refuses to share any of this. Like that's her leverage, right? Like that's my mother's leverage, because she wants me back home. She doesn't want to give up her control over her daughter, even though she's always saying, I hate her, I hate her, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't want to give up the control over me. So she's keeping my social security number, my social insurance number, and she's keeping my birth certificate. She's not giving any of these documentations that are essential for me, my health card, like all of this stuff. She's not giving it to me. So Mrs. B actually starts helping me get my identification and documentation, anything that needs like a legal parent, guardian signature. She's literally doing that for me. The only thing that she didn't do for me was get me a bank account. Now, since I was separated from my parents, I was eligible for welfare. At first, I was getting like $300 a month from the government. This was because my father had passed away, and he had worked enough years in Canada to gain this governmental benefit that since he had passed, as long as I was a full-time student, until I think the cutoff time was maybe 22 or something like that, then I would be getting a $300 check from the government every single month. However, I would not be able to receive this money unless I had a bank account. She did ask me if I could ask Marie's parents if one of them could sign for me so that I could get a bank account. And I realize more now like how much that really is to give to someone, because that's literally saying like you're responsible if this person goes in financial debt. And so Marie's father signed on behalf of me so that I could get a checking account and I could start getting welfare checks. And what this helped like all of us is that I could go out and buy my conditioner, my face wash, food, things that I needed, so I didn't have to be spending the family's money. And I didn't want to do that either, because nothing made me feel more guilty than when I was realizing that I was a burden on them financially. So Mrs. B helped me get my birth certificate, my social insurance number, my social security number. She helped me get my welfare checks set up, and she also helped me in a way get my bank account set up as well. I'm pretty sure I also got a backlogged amount of money since the time of my father's passing. I think he passed like late October, let's say like the start of November check then, and I probably started receiving checks like February, April. So there's a bit of a backlog that I got, and I was able to go to the grocery store and get my essentials so I didn't have to spend their money. Still, I would go with Marie and the mother grocery shopping from time to time, and she'd ask me what things I wanted for the house, and I think I was getting like cereals and things like that, and I felt really bad, but I also am very grateful for them taking me in and very happy that they did. These 2 months that I was staying with Marie's family, I just felt so awkward and guilty and out of place, and I just felt like I was a problem there and that I was just taking up space and resources. For instance, like there was the internet situation, but then there was also the situation where I was called out for using a lot of toilet paper because I was crying like nonstop. I remember when my friend had a conversation with me. Actually, there was one time I remember we were walking down a street, and I think I was buying my friend ice cream and things like that, like coffee or soups at the coffee shop and ice cream at Wendy's and things like that, just because like her family was helping me out so much, and I was out a lot with Marie, so of course like I have some money, like let's go out, let's have some food, like I'll pay for it. I wanted to help in any way I could. And I remember her saying like, wow, like you're not sad about the situation at all, like you're fine, like you never had an issue with any of this happening, like you're good. And I remember realizing at that point just like how good I must have been at hiding my true emotions. I never wanted to show how sad or upset I was about the situation at home. I mean, at the end of the day, like getting out and going to the school and hanging out with my friends, like that was escapism for me. That was my way of getting out of my head, getting out of all of this negativity that surrounded me. And whenever I was by myself, like I was just crying and a crying, sobbing mess and just so emotional and sad and depressed. It was a little bit of a shock to me hearing her say that, and the realization that she truly did not understand just how much I was struggling. And there was a time where she called me out for using too much toilet paper, and I told her like, actually no, like I cry myself to sleep like every single night, and the reason why I'm always using so much toilet paper is because of that reason. And I remember she was pretty shocked to hear that too, because she wasn't expecting that. I remember around this time I was still heavy into my bulimia, and I was still up checking, but I was trying to be as quiet as possible. Sometimes I would shower and leave the shower on and then use the toilet. Sometimes I would go into the shower so be quieter and I didn't have to like flush constantly. Sometimes I would go into a trash can and take the trash out and change it out immediately. These are just things that I would do because I was truly just really struggling. I remember I was really struggling with my weight around this time too. Like I was eating more and I wasn't like so like I guess like there's so much going on that I couldn't really be so anal about like calories and like food and stuff like that. So especially like being around my friend Marie, like I was eating a lot of things like she was eating. Like we were going out and getting McDonald's. At this time, I didn't talk too much about this, but I used to eat like a little bit of meat. Like this is the first time I had a Big Mac, and I realized like 2 patties of meat was like too much, so I would take 1 patty out and I would only have 1 patty. And then eventually I was like, yeah, no, I don't want the meat at all. But like sometimes I ate like some meat here and there and different like food items, specifically fast food items, but eventually I just like cut out all meat because I'm like, ew, this is gross. Again, I don't know how much I talked about this on my YouTube channel. Maybe I did, maybe I haven't. For me, it's a psychological thing about me. It's like, it feels like I'm eating like people, like flesh. So to me, it's just like really psychologically gross. So I think because I find it gross that way, like it just triggers me to feel like it tastes gross, even though it's like not a taste thing, if that makes sense. I don't know. Anyway, like I was just eating like a lot of this stuff, and we'd go fast food a lot, fish and chips, things like that. And I think I remember I jumped up to about 120 pounds, and I was even struggling to maintain that around this time. Remember, if you did watch my previous story time where I did develop an eating disorder, I did get to a low weight of like 107 pounds. That was the lowest weight I've ever weighed as far as I know, because I don't weigh myself anymore. And I was struggling to even maintain 120 at that time. But anyway, my time at my friend's place, I was really grateful they took me in. My friend and I did have a lot of fun at the beginning. I feel like this friend particularly like gets bored really easily of people, so she needs to like cycle through different like friends to be close around. And I think at that time, like for like maybe a month or something, like we were really close, but we did start drifting a little bit and we didn't remain super close. Well, this video is already getting pretty long, so I'm going to stop it here. The next episode does get pretty juicy with some drama at school. I definitely need to update you on like the whole friend group situations and stuff, because I didn't talk much about any of this. Up until this point, it's been predominantly like situations at home, situations with me. So I need to get back into some tea with you about what's going on with everything going on at school. And that is where stuff gets fun and a little crazy. Girls get a little wild, and I'm gonna spill the tea. So I do apologize if this video was a little bit more boring than usual. A lot of this stuff is still like a little heavy, a little depressing. Mind you, like nothing like bad is really going on at this time anymore. It's just me having to deal and process with everything going on. I think the story time I covered today really only covered like a month. Like from the time I got kicked out, which was like late February, to like late March. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up, subscribe down below, turning on that notifications bell so you don't miss my next video coming very soon. And again, it's gonna be a spicier one. Bye for now, till next time.